gently on the ground and having something like a stool or the couch where you can rest our feet on. Let's see if my cat Diana gets in the way and lays on my belly, but we'll hope she doesn't. So I've got a little pillow under my head for comfort. Thank you. So, if you place your hands just directly, maybe let's warm them up a little bit. Let's get some friction, get it warm, nice and warm. Getting some heat generated. Not only is it getting heat generated, but it's also kind of waking up those subtle little connections in your skin, the sensory input and the nerve endings, waking up those small little fibers. And then let's place them palm down, just right on either side of your belly button. Excuse me, Diana. Right on the other side of your belly button. Kind of tucked into your pocket, as if from your hip bones, right underneath your rib cage. And as you're tucking your hands, you're placing your hands on your belly, don't press onto your belly. Just gentle pressure as if your hands just landed there. So you're not adding pressure, you're just connecting skin to skin with gentle pressure about the weight of how much your hand weighs. So not pushing, not lifting, just resting. And as you start to feel those two parts of your skin kind of melt into one another, then you can start taking both hands in this clockwise circular direction, taking that top layer of skin with you. Nice. So very little effort, very little pressure. Thank you, Dad. Oh, such sweet kisses. So as we're stimulating this clockwise direction, it's helping the energetic body that surrounds our physical body, and specifically the subtle body or energy body of the digestive tract, that lower digestive tract, small intestine, big intestine, a little bit of your pancreas, a little bit of your liver. And it's helping encourage this movement through the system. This clockwise direction helps go through the system. If you want, you can add like the very littlest amount of pressure downward and get just a very, very subtle amount of pressure as you continue this clockwise direction movement. Now, if we go back to anatomy class, we know that the small intestine is kind of like a big bundle of rope. And then around it, we have the large intestine that kind of forms like a triangle. It goes from the right side of our body, up, over and across, and then down. And then from this down part, it goes into our actual colon, and that's where it begins to wait its release into our toilets. So we're encouraging this movement of gas, of excrement, anything that you feel like you're moving through this digestive tract in this clockwise position with that little added pressure to help maybe more of a physical structured move. We're going to keep going in this clockwise direction for a few more moments as I stare lovingly into Diana's eyes. She wants someone to rub her belly the same way that I'm rubbing my own belly. And I don't know if you can notice in the video, but my arms are just kind of going at the same pace as my hands. So if I flip the script and I make it more of the opposite and I move my hands because of my arms, see how much more aggressive that is? It's way too much effort. And I almost want the skin from my belly to encourage my hands to follow it in that clockwise position. And for me, in my own physical body, as I'm doing this, I can feel little gas bubbles exploding a little bit, little belly toots. And sometimes when it's really early in the morning and I haven't gone to the bathroom yet, I can feel that bowel movement in my intestines. And with gentle pressure and gentle twists and bends like in yoga, I can help encourage that to release without having to press or push very hard. So we're going to keep going in this nice circle position for a little bit longer. I added just the subtlest amount of pressure in my fingertips over my bladder. And for me, that just sends like a shock wave of reaction throughout my whole abdomen. That feels good. Okay, so now let's rest, keeping that same pressure, but let's stop the movement and just rest. Checking in to see what that energetic body or that your digestive system wants to experience with that added energy. So the next, I'm going to encourage you to do it's technically a cross arm pull, but for the purposes of doing it on yourself, you're just going to do it in a spreading pull motion. So the fascia that connects the scar tissue as well as just any other connective tissue in the body, that fascia takes about 2,000 pounds per square inch to make change. I don't know about you, but I'm not that strong. So what makes the biggest change in these structures is these long sustained holds with graduated pressure. So if you let your hands sink a little bit more into that layer of tissue in your abdomen, once you feel like you've gotten that without forcing it, then start to gently encourage your hands to come apart from each other, side to side, but don't force. It's almost like from the shoulder blades, you start to move your hands outwards, not from the hands moving your hands outwards. So it's very small, it's very subtle. If you feel a resistance where you feel like you need more effort to pull and you're not sliding as much, then that's where you need to hold it until the tissue that you're starting to stretch in your abdomen releases. And that release will feel almost like a whoosh or like butter melting, and your hands will start to glide easily back in that same direction. So this is where that long sustained pressure and hold comes into, without forcing it, makes the greatest change on our tissues. Breathing into any discomfort without forcing it. Letting your breath expand your abdomen with every inhale and encourage more release or more movement with every exhale. You're going to hold it until you feel like either your hands come off your abdomen and start wrapping around your back, or if time has lapsed. I would say, a good 5 minutes just for this one pull, and a good 2 minutes just for that circular motion. Trying to keep tension out of the hands and forearms. Just gliding over that top layer of skin. Maybe you have to adjust your arms and your elbows if you feel like you're pulling wider than you can still pull without much tension or much effort. Imagining inside of that physical body, that all that scar tissue that looks like dense spider webs is starting to stretch and release. Maybe its release just means it gets longer, so it's not as tight. Or maybe it starts to crumble and subside and completely thin out so that it looks just like regular tissue. Maybe you feel a weird sensation in another part of your body. For me, I'm not touching my belly button, but I feel a really big pull from inside my belly button. Almost like a line that goes straight down into the floor. Inhale for expansion and exhale for stretch. Encouraging all the way till your fingertips almost come off. You can just place your hands back on your belly where it's comfortable and just send love and light into your belly and into any organ that feels like maybe there's some stagnancy or maybe some grumbliness. Visualizing what that organ looks like. Doesn't have to be a correct image, just I say the word gallbladder and what pops up. I say the word pancreas and what pops up. And using those images in your brain and filling it with light and love. Feeling that sensation of lightness, mobile, unrestricted movement. Using your hand to belly touch to sense what may be occurring in your belly or maybe occurring in your hand. Excellent. So next you can thank your belly for that moment that you had together. And then we can do a couple of little light stretches here. So the first stretch is technically a pelvic tilt. But you're doing the pelvic tilt with as little intensity as possible. So if I do it with great intensity, my whole abdomen flares up, my butt lifts off the floor and I start shaking. We don't need that much intensity. What we just want to do is engage a little bit of the abdomen in the front and curl your tailbone just under. then relax. Start to engage those muscles in a 25% effort, like very minimal activation. And then you can flip the script and pretend like there's a rope on your tailbone underneath, and that starts to arch. So then I'm using my lower back muscles to do that tilt the other way. Again, being dramatic, this is not what we want. That's way too much. Pairing them together, getting that very gentle forward and backward tilting in your pelvis, your lower back. And this small vibration with that 25% effort will send little shock waves through your organs to help stimulate that stagnant energy and that stagnant tissue to help mobilize and release. This time from the inside out, as opposed to when our hands were stimulating from the outside in. Excellent. You can even try like a little circle if you want to get funky with it. But basically your tailbone never leaves the ground. You could do side to side. And you could do circles. Okay. The next stretch I would say, cross your leg over your other leg, and we'll do this a nice little gentle piriformis pull where my foot is still resting on the couch or the cushion, and I'm getting gentle compression in my abdomen, gentle stretch in the leg that's being crossed. Holding it for maybe 3 deep belly breaths. And then release the leg back and switch. So for all intents and purposes, if I let my hands go, my leg doesn't move too much because the cushion or the couch that I'm resting on is holding a lot of my weight. Getting just very gentle stomach compression paired with the belly breathing to help stimulate some of those tissues and movements through the GI tract. Awesome. And lastly, I would say let's just do one last little happy baby on one leg at a time. So with happy baby, people always try to come centralized, but bring the leg all the way out wide so that it targets towards the outside of your shoulder. Keeping your knee at a specific angle rather than trying to pull like this and then in. Keep your knee in that angle and then let the hip socket on the outside of your leg, with the elevated leg, take most of the motion. So still trying to keep that tailbone on the ground if you can, so you're not all twisted and flip-floppy. And then we'll switch sides. So we're going wide, and then that knee or that thigh comes towards the ground. Now, if you're not flexible, you could always just use a rope or something and then encourage it. You don't have to be so flexible that you have to use your hand. And if you have an animal weight you can use on your abdomen, that could be your resistance training for your diaphragm breathing, stimulating those muscles to be working functional again. The very last stretch that I'm going to have you do is to encourage your arms and movement. So as we inhale, you're going to let your hands kind of just sweep up with that movement of your breath. And then as you exhale, you're going to let it come downwards back to your side. So letting your hands slide and glide on the floor or wherever you're laying, and then letting it glide and slide back down. With each inhale, take the full breath to go as far as your arms will move, and then with your full exhale, encouraging it in the opposite direction. So if your full inhale gets you here, then that's it. And then your full exhale brings you right back. And as you get more and more mobility, or more and more coordination with your breathing, or more and more elasticity in those structures, you'll notice you'll be able to get further and further, and then bringing it back to neutral. Well, I hope that this has been encouraging and helpful in your recovery, and I hope you enjoyed my cat making such a stand in the treatment with me. So enjoy, and if you have any questions, feel free to message me or reach out. And if there are painful or discomfort things you notice, again, reach out, because maybe there's things that we can't see that that somebody who has like a second pair of eyes can help you see. And always check in that you're not using too much pressure. Pressure is always way too much as humans. We have just way too much pressure. So just take it down a notch, stop completely, and then from that complete zero, then try to apply pressure. Enjoy.